Aloha, welcome back for another Flying Hawaiian's Gun Talk. I'm Flying Hawaiian. We got Media Mania Podcast here, Cannon and Big Hoss. So
thanks for having me back on.
Today's topic is, oh yeah, been a while.
It has.
Today's topic is different kind of violence, from knives, blunt objects, and the firearms. So I'm going to pass it on to Cannon so he could tell you guys about the blunt objects.
Yes. Whenever talking about blunt force trauma and looking it up, they sum it all as just trauma, being either ranging from falling down to car accident or to car crashes. They don't count car accidents; they count car crashes. An interesting fact is trauma is the leading cause of death for individuals to the age of 45 in the United States. And it's the fourth leading cause of death overall for all ages. 40,000 homicides and suicides each year, suicide deaths each year in the U.S. There were over 30,000 suicides in the U.S. in 2001. And there were 43,443 deaths and 2.7 million injuries from motor vehicle crashes in the U.S. in 2005. And that's just in the U.S. Around the world, road traffic crashes kill 1.2 million people annually around the world. And 90% of those deaths are in low or middle income countries. It was predicted to become the third largest contributor to the global burden of disease by 2020. Although I don't know how it would be a disease. I guess because it's covering accidents and suicides and fatalities and stuff like that. But I don't know. This is kind of some old information. They don't update it much. But that's just to give you an idea of how many people get killed each year from blunt force trauma. Traumatic brain injury is the single largest cause of death from injury in the United States. It says here that 1 million people with traumatic brain injury per year in the U.S., 230,000 hospitalized, 50,000 die, 1/3 of all trauma deaths, and 80 to 90,000 with long-term disability.
Hey, I got a curious question on that with there. Does it count for any kind of like crushes, like from objects or anything like that? Because I used to be a trucker, a flatbed, but the most dangerous part was getting crushed by pipes, steel coils, like high loads. So does that count for any of those?
I'm pretty sure it does because it counts any kind of trauma. That would be a trauma death. Um, so I don't see why it wouldn't. Because uh, the numbers I gave were kind of high to be like, and I mean, for the 30,000 blunt force trauma suicides would be kind of a lot for just, for just stuff like that to be, happening. Um, and for stuff that happens with trucks and stuff like that, even though it could be an accident under a flatbed or something, um, they might still rule it a suicide. Um, because of the way that they classify deaths nowadays. Um, like my grandfather died of cancer, but instead of them putting down cancer, they put old age. You know, so it's very, very subjective how they put down how people die.
All right, that's kind of very interesting. You know,
And all this seems to go back to like uh, pre 2000s. So whether it's gone higher or lower uh, is very debatable. Um, it was the best I could find. It was from the let me see. Hold on. I could tell you the American Association for the Surgery of Trauma, and they're there to study trauma, and they're there to know about this stuff. So that was the best source I could find. Um, Other sources just kind of like they didn't give exact numbers or anything like that I could find.
yeah, that's the hard thing about data. It's hard to find numbers on everything you're trying to look for.
Right. And how they classify it as well. Because some people might not classify, they might take all car accidents or all car crashes or all blunt force trauma, even if it's like falling down on a skating rink or something like that, and you get a hematoma or something like that on your brain. I don't know. So it's really a difficult area. I had a time researching it, but this one seemed like the most reliable site, even though their data was a bit dated. Um, it was still pretty sufficient for showing how comparable trauma is to the national scale of deaths of people and stuff.
Oh yeah, I agree. Uh, any other interesting parts for your research that you've done with the blunt objects that maybe we don't really realize that happen?
Um, Not really. I mean, there was such small amounts of basically what I told you was everything that was on this website, and looking. Let's see. Of traumatic deaths, the leading causes are blunt trauma, motor vehicle collisions, and falls.
Isn't there any data that shows like, you know, violent crimes that use like a hammer or some kind of blunt object that uh, will help dictate the amount of crimes that are going on? Not because my topic, firearms, you know, it's the most talk of the town, but you never really hear blunt objects.
Right. Um, you know, it's it's so hard to for this because, like I said, they lump it all together as just injuries and stuff like that, and like on the CDC site, they classify it as all injury deaths. Number of deaths, 300,900. Deaths per 100,000 population, 89.8. Um, the they don't really break it down by like you know deaths with a hammer or deaths by this and deaths by that that I could find. It's basically just all lumped together by injury or motor vehicle traffic deaths, number of deaths, 43,273 deaths per 100,000 population, 12.9. And this is the CDC statistics. Um, you know, so this is all injuries. So okay, so they actually include poisoning and firearm deaths too, and injury deaths. Um, I don't know. They also do drug overdoses. It's hard to see how each individual organization classifies injury. Um, because I could see how they could get poison and gunshots as well, because you could get injured by a gunshot wound and die. You could get injured internally by poisons and die from the injuries caused by the poisons. Um, so it's really just a lot of info that's all lumped together, because if you broke it down even further, there's a lot of stuff that you would be going into. So
Okay, here.
unless like you look up blunt force trauma by a certain object, I'm sure you would have to do that to find that. Um, but if you're just looking for blunt force trauma deaths, you're just going to get it overall.
Okay, but here's a curious question. Step into the cause if you agree. In the CDC, the Center of Disease Control, and why would one blunt force trauma be a concern for the CDC? It's not like it's a disease.
Unless you can catch a hammer with viral intensity.
I really wouldn't know, but I mean, I could see maybe them classifying it by injuries, by poisonings, stuff like that, by being an injury in itself, and drug overdose and drug poisoning deaths and stuff like that. Because they say drug abuse is a disease and stuff like that. Um, I see what you're saying though, and but the CDC is a wide cloud of things that it covers. Um, but I do understand what you are saying though.
Yeah, but now, blunt objects are somewhat cool depending on the certain situations. But I know knives are even a little bit cooler, but also more deadly. Big Hoss, what did you find out about that?
Quite frankly, I have found like the numbers of stabbings in countries by number, and they the apparently like in 2019 there was a huge spike in blade related injuries. There were worldwide over 81,000 and it was 81,577 deaths worldwide. Not including the attempted ones, which they do actually include in here. This includes maimings and like violence related. But for the past, this data is going back to 2019. For the past from the to starts at it last thing they tested was 2023. And so far the numbers are actually pretty stably high, oddly enough. Especially Brazil. It like in stabbing deaths that were in 2019, over 8,822 of them were in Brazil, and it stays at number one pretty much throughout the data recorded. In 2023, which was the last date, it was 3,398 deaths due to bladed weapon. Next would be Mexico, and the United States is only steady at about 1,500 at like that's a 5,000 average throughout the U.S. for all of these years, and that it doesn't include attempted. These are just deaths and attacks. But they include the attacks as a point value.
Okay, that's very interesting. Like, how many of them were like, if we're here in the U.S., did you find anything on whether or not it was just knives, machetes, you know, chainsaws, or some kind of object with a sharpened edge?
It's mainly just blades. And these aren't accidents. These aren't attacks. They are specifically saying like stabbing deaths of purposeful homicide or attempted homicide.
Okay, that's really interesting.
And I found another statistic that is also interesting is the age range of which knives are used for violent attacks. And over 83% of the offenders who have committed a knife-related crime were 18 and under, and between 18 and down to 16.
What would you think of that? That's the most, like, that A range has the most deaths.
Probably because if you think about it, whenever you're in that age, that's normally the entrance age to either gangs or the times whenever you're most addicted to drugs or most likely to use drugs, or you know start to underage drink. I think that might be a leading cause too of these is the outside factors uh of the world around them.
Okay, so were you able to see if any of these tied to mental health, or does it really just say could be gang related, or it could be something else?
No, unfortunately, it doesn't provide that statistic, but that is probably a good leading cause of it because again, how much of it is you know bullied kids stabbing their bullies or something. If you think about it, that could be another reason. Or um
Could any of your statistics that you found say any of this could be self-defense related, or they don't list that?
this is no, it's not self-defense. They're listing strictly homicide.
Well, homicide could also be tied to self-defense depending how it reacted.
Well, I guess you are right about that. Um but I don't really know how much of the law comes into account because it is a big difference between like um the United States and say the United Kingdom, where in the United States only 8% of homicides are due to bladed weapons.
Well, only 8%. I thought it would have been higher since they have the United Kingdom has a gun ban. No firearms.
Well, no, I was saying the United States has 8%.
Okay. Oh, okay. 8% for the United States. Were you able to find about like in the UK or over over the pond?
Yeah, I have this. In 2002, knife-related homicides reached their highest levels since records began, with 282 incidents. And again, 83% of those were teenage homicide victims. And that's including England and Wales that were killed with bladed weapons.
Jesus Christ. You know, I gotta say, if those people had a firearm on them to defend themselves, it wouldn't be that high.
No, because once again, whenever blades come into effect, it's no longer, oh, how well can you just point and shoot? It's actually how well you can
Slice and dice?
yeah, exactly. It's how well are you with that blade, and how well is a person with martial arts to defend themselves. Like, whenever blades come into account, skill comes into account.
Sounds some supernatural stuff going on. You guys seen the show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking about bladed objects, man. Having a machete right there took skill with those stuff.
Yeah, it's like, well, you have a knife. So do I. Now who's gonna die?
So compared knives to blunt objects, which one do you guys think is the worst?
Death-wise, over the globe, I'd say bladed objects because, um, uh, you know, that is extremely high. Uh,
And also, those are all deliberate killings.
yes, these are all, actual deliberate killings that aren't caused by accidents, aren't caused by anything. But I actually have a top 16 of the year, like blade related deaths percentage wise. Um, in top 16 countries with the highest percentage of knife related homicides. And out of all the homicides, you have like 76% of homicides in Cuba, 75.5% of their homicides are bladed in Azerbaijan. And it's like mostly all these third world countries that really don't have guns. I mean, the only ones that I see in the top 16 that are technically like first world countries are Morocco and Poland, which Morocco actually has a 64% homicide rate with bladed weapons, and Poland with a 57.
Okay, that what are those ranked from 1 to 5? You said Cuba had a 76%.
They were number one, at like the number one highest for blade related deaths.
Man, are they back in the medieval times?
No, it's because no guns are allowed. And again, who's going to be the ones with the guns are going to be either the police or like guerrillas, which nowadays you don't find them anymore. People are pretty under, control over there, but then you have, knives, which are bladed weapons, which are everywhere.
Yeah, also the cartels will have guns down there, the rebels. I get it. It's kind of very, very surprising. So what number was the U.S. for knives?
Not even the top 16.
Wow. Okay. That is straight out, shocking, because we're the far the worst in almost every single category than other countries. And hearing that deliberate knives homicides are the absolute lowest from other countries, that is shocking to me.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, in the so far in 23, we are technically at this is mainly only the ones that record their things to global incidents. We are number 4, but that's that with a number of 1,688. But that's only a 0.49% per 100,000 people.
Oh, wow. But we're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsors, and we'll come back with the firearm portion.
Carry and Home Defense Fundamentals. Take a class where you will get the foundation needed to obtain your CCW permit. Get the confidence you need to act as your family's first line of defense. Learn about home security, marksmanship fundamentals, firearms basics, conflict avoidance, situational awareness, physiology of violent encounters, the legal aspect of using deadly force, and the aftermath of a home defense incident. Register for your Concealed Carry and Home Defense Fundamentals class today. Countering the Mass Shooter Threat. This course takes data compiled from mass shootings and teaches you how to recognize if a person may be planning a mass shooting, respond during a mass shooting incident, stop or reduce mass shootings, and implement an emergency operations plan. With special security considerations for schools, churches, and businesses, you will walk away with the confidence to respond in the event of an active shooter. Register for your class today.
All right, now that we got done with our sponsors, I got the topic of gun violence or gun homicides or gun data. I pulled resources from 3 different sites. One's from the left, one's from the center, and one is the right. I want to see if you guys know which one's each. I'll start with the Pew Research Center. This is where I got my data. I like getting them. You probably will see why. Now, as of 2023, firearm deaths were about 47,000 people. But that's also according to the CDC, what the Pew Research Center was saying. But 58% of all those were suicides. That was 27,300 deaths related to that. It's kind of sad that all those people had to have a game over. Something was seriously wrong. People should have stepped in on that. For all the people who were part of that, statistics, all the families, I'm sorry for your guys' loss. While with all that, 38% of those were murders. That's 17,927 people. The remaining gun deaths were involved with law enforcement. That was only 604 people. Accidental shootings, I mean, still weren't, no one really died, or if they did, it was declared accidental, and that was 463. And the rest, 434, were undetermined circumstances, so couldn't really put in a category for that. That's a lot of people, gotta say. But 8 out of 10 of those murders involved a firearm. Did you guys know that?
No.
I didn't realize that either. 8 out of 10 U.S. murders involved a firearm. But among the highest, 2023 was the highest one out of that of 79%. The highest one was in 1968 of gun deaths like that, of murders.
Wow.
About with 2023 suicide rates involving a gun, that is the second highest one. The first highest was in 2000. And that was 57%. But I was surprised when I saw that statistics. In 2000, 57% of suicides involved a firearm. So then in 2023 was also another third highest record, trailing from 2022 and 2021 of gun deaths, period. So with all of these more guns that are being put out into the market and people are getting more firearms, are lowering the rate. Slowly but surely. I know we're never going to get a perfect number. So
yeah,
the Pew Research says the number of gun murders fell from a record of 20,958 in 2021 to 17,927 That's a 14% decrease. That's quite a bit. But these suicides are going up. That's the bad part. So people, if you have loved ones, friends, or anything that is having a hard time coping, that is thinking about, having a game over, please get them help. Please get them some kind of help. Period. I think you guys would agree too.
Yeah.
And here's
the
most shocking part out of all this statistics. The U.S. gun death rates is 10.6 per 1,000 people in 2016. That is much lower than El Salvador, Venezuela, Guatemala, Colombia, and Honduras. And we rate in 2016 20th of gun fatality. But I don't know how many of you guys know, in 2023, 50% of murders and non-negligent manslaughters involve rifles.
Like what kind of rifles? Like your basic hunting rifles, or?
No, they put in quotes assault weapons.
Okay.
Actually, wait, I misread that. I'll correct myself. Handguns were 53% of the murders and non-negligent manslaughters. Rifles were involved 4%. Shotguns, 1%.
Okay.
So I had to correct myself. I read that a little wrong. It was handguns that were 53%. And that was 13,529 gun murders and non-negligent manslaughters. So, any of you guys that are far left-leaning, assault weapons aren't the cause of all these gun deaths.
Yeah.
I had to say that. Now, going to my other resource is from every town. And I think you guys know what kind of news source that is. They don't really give any data or anything too much, really, to support their claim on gun safety policy, save lives. Okay? They do show lines of gun strengths and gun violence rates, but there's no numbers to them. Okay? They say California is number one with the biggest gun law strength with a few gun violent deaths. Well, when I was reading through this resource, the only thing that kind of made sense and made me question about what they're really talking about is all states should start with a core group of 5 foundation laws: pass background checks and or purchase permitting, along with extreme risk laws and secure gun storage requirements, and rejecting shoot first, also known as stand your ground, and permitless carry laws. while each of the top 16 states in the gun law ranking has all 5 of these policies in place, only the bottom 18 states has been given these critical protections. What do you think?
It
It's kind of shocking hearing all that. For one,
yeah.
people, I know, Cannon, you can chime in if you need to help me correct. One, we already have a background check. So we have to, anytime we have to purchase a firearm, we have to fill out a 4473 before we can take the firearm home.
Yeah, we have to fill out like a lot of paperwork before we can do anything with a firearm.
No. Purchase permitting, man, that's called a gun registry. Just call it how it's supposed to be. Because if we have to have a permit to purchase a firearm, we have to register our firearms. That's a national registry. That's also a violation of our rights. Okay?
Right.
And I don't agree with it. And this is what happens. We get a registry. The government can come take our firearms. Look at the UK, Australia, New Zealand. Those have a complete country gun ban. There's still ways people are still getting hurt, murdered, dying there. So, the purchase permitting, unconstitutional, completely. Then extreme risk laws, just say red flag laws. That's what you're talking about, because if we have to go to someone and say, oh, he can't have a firearm, well, here's the thing. You guys have to prove that someone can't have a firearm. Just can't. Yeah, that makes me disgust. What do you think about that extreme risk law?
I mean, that should be optional. I mean, you should store your gun safely, but I mean, if you don't want to, I mean, that's you taking your risk, you know.
Yeah, I would agree with the secure gun storage. I'm completely 100% that. That shows law-abiding citizens that they are securing their firearms, or being responsible, and like that. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
That's one thing I would agree completely. Reject shoot first, stand your ground law. No, we need to have our stand our ground law, because we need to be able to stand our ground if an intruder is coming to harm us or our family.
Exactly.
What are we supposed to do? So, oh, you missed a spot and wait for them to shoot?
Yeah.
Because by the time you call 911, that intruder is already heading upstairs or to your room or to somewhere where you're hiding at to eliminate their threat. You are their threat because they broke into your home. And they want something, they're going to get it. If they want to hurt you, they're going to hurt you. But if you have a firearm to defend yourself, well, you level the playing field.
Right.
So you should be able to stand your ground.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard, a few weeks ago, or months, or whatever it is, a woman was by herself and called 911 and said, there's an intruder in my house. She grabbed her gun while on the phone on 911. She shot the intruder and told 911, I just shot him. An officer still didn't make it there until 10 minutes later after she shot this guy. Because she defended herself.
Yeah.
Now, I got to get up the lady. What were you saying?
I mean, what was she supposed to do? Wait the half hour or whatever and just see what happens?
Yeah, and a lot of the people don't understand is, when these stuff happens, it happens within seconds. Not minutes, not hours, in seconds.
Yeah.
And get rid of permitless carry laws. No, I don't agree with that. Because that's constitutional carry.
Yeah.
But I bet you can guess what kind of biased news source this is. Now, going down to my last one, seeing here is the homicide. They reported the homicide rates dropped 21% from 2022 to 2023. With firearm-related homicides decreasing 25% in the same period. Pre-2020 levels were 4.7 per 1,000 people. And what else they said? Nationally, 16% decrease in the total number of firearm-related deaths in 2023. So, what I'm hearing is more firearms, less crimes. The only thing that is the biggest issue, and I'm going to keep saying, is suicides are 7.0 per 100,000 per capita. Homicides are 4.6, undetermined 0.1, unintentional 0.1, legal interventions, operational war 0.2. So, out of all this, to me, what it shows, good guys with guns need to happen.
Yeah.
So, I'm in the fair portion that everybody needs to defend themselves.
Yeah.
And everybody that's going to be watching this video, mental health is important. If you know family, friends that are having a tough time, please go get them help. It takes one person to help change someone's life. You got anything you want to chime in there?
I completely agree. Mental health is a very important thing. Everyone should seek it if they need it. Even if they don't think they need it, they you never know.
Yeah. Because I can guarantee you, some of these mass shootings, church shootings, as people's been seeing, and these rates of, self-deletion, there's has to be something seriously mentally wrong with the person. So, we need to stop focusing on the firearms and start focusing on the root cause. And people,
Right.
Yeah. People who are leaning left. I don't care if you guys hate on me. You guys want to talk about control, control, control. You guys are not going to get anywhere with control. You want to make a change on the left side? Start listening to other people. Don't think you're always right. Do not use these deaths as a political agenda. It is completely wrong. It's like watching all these people who celebrated Charlie Kirk's murder. That is what you guys are pretty much doing with these school shootings, these mass shootings, is forwarding your own agenda. You guys need to think of something that actually could work. But
is this what you were looking for?
So that would, unless Cannon got anything else to add, that'll bring us to the end of our episode.
I'm good.
All right. Well, aloha. See you guys next Friday on this episode of the Gun Talk.